Welcome to a new winter season of Borough Talks, the Borough Market podcast. I'm author and food writer Giulia Crouch, and in each episode I'll be sitting down with the traders at London's most iconic market to get to know the stories behind the stalls.
People come to a market for an experience. They come open-eyed and hungry.
As you walk through the market, you are immediately hit by its smells, sounds and sights. Freshly baked bread, towers of cheese.
It's hard as a rock, it doesn't need a fridge, and it's used to season your foods.
Cups of steaming coffee, the shucking of oysters, and hot, sizzling pans. It's a treasure trove of deliciousness. Each trader has a unique story to tell.
So we don't really brew the milk in with it too tough because the fat from the milk will split, and that's how we make a really, really good chai.
So much of the joy of food, particularly at this time of year, is sharing it with other people, and that's what Borough Market is all about. We'll be taking you with us as we discover the passion, expertise and characters that make Borough Market so unique, as we share good food and drink with the people who live and breathe it every day.
Cheers, guys.
This is Borough Talks. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by two cheese experts, Coles Loomis, manager of Jumi Cheese, and John Thrupp, owner of Mons Cheese, both in Borough Market. And we're going to talk about one of the great pleasures of Christmas, which is eating lots of cheese. So I want to know what role cheese plays in both of your festive periods.
It's an easier dinner, isn't it? It's kind of, it gets worse and worse as you start, I feel. So you don't want to cook, you eat cheese, then you feel really heavy, so you don't want to cook again, so you then eat more cheese.
Yeah.
And
it's always there for you at Christmas, I feel, cheese.
Yeah, I think so. If you don't get uric acids at too high a level, you can go into salmon for New Year, and then hopefully, if you get away with it, you can go back to a normal existence in January. Yeah, it's...
Not in my world. I'm always eating cheese.
Are you? Is
Yes.
it an all year round thing?
All
for
year
you?
round. I think specifically in the holiday season, it's very communal. You know, I like to have all the cheeses out on the board. You know, it's kind of like a grazing situation. Lots of different cheeses to be offered as well, so you can kind of taste and chat, talk cheese, but also talk about what's been going on. You know, it's like a very social aspect of my holiday season.
It's a very social food, I think.
Yeah.
Cheese just like encourages conversation, and you can
Exactly.
try different ones. Do you guys have like staple Christmas cheeses that you must have in at Christmas, or do you like to mix it up?
Should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, I like to mix it up. I made a mistake once and didn't reserve a batch from something at the right age from Neil's Yard, and it was for Stilton. This was many years ago, and so I said, you know what, there's no point taking the younger batch. It's still in that bitter stage before it really opens up and gets good. So I abstained from getting the Stilton, but then when I announced that to my dad, he did that deafening thing of just going, oh.
Oh no.
I can still hear it now.
That's really
It was really bad. I let the whole side down. Yeah, so I've never done that since.
So Stilton is a Christmas cheese.
Yeah, that's still, I think in this country with many families, that's a staple. There are others that are joining that list that maybe come from other parts of Europe, as in we brought the Vacherin, you brought a hard cow's milk cheese as well, which I think people are realizing are kind of winter cheeses that they like to see around the table. Mainly around seasonal skiing, things like that might sort of mean that they have a reflection of, I like to eat those cheeses at this time of year, but yeah.
You mentioned the Stilton, and I find it really interesting that, like, in my sales, particularly blue cheese, skyrockets during the Christmas season. I've had lots of people ask me kind of like, what is it about blue cheese that people are more drawn towards it during the Christmas season or during the holiday season? I don't know. What would your opinion on that be?
I mean, it's curious. I was just thinking about the World Cheese Awards and actually a number of cheeses that have won it that are blue.
Yeah.
And how that comes through the ranks of the selection and then the grading to then make it the overall winner. I was weirdly associating it to textiles, actually, and haute couture. There's something in the complexity of the flavor, if it's made well, between the acids, the molds, the piercing kind of phenol notes. There's just
kind of
lots going on, and I
spiciness,
feel like,
yeah.
it's like a well-decorated tree. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's got everything kind of thing. It's not got too much.
That's a lovely
So,
analogy.
do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it
is
kind
a
of has a
lovely
sparkle,
analogy.
maybe.
Yeah, I also think that like some people, not everybody is a huge fan of blue cheese, and going back to like the kind of communal aspect of grazing a cheese board with your loved ones, it's always fun to see, oh, this person has never loved blue cheese, let's get them to try it, getting like a young child to try blue cheese and seeing their reaction. You always get a conversation from from something so polarizing in the cheese world.
It can be divisive, can't it? Blue cheese. It can be really divisive.
I mean, it can go too far. Like we sell Roquefort and Stilton's down the same thing. If you buy from producers that are producing for site buying, so that means it needs to be seen in a pre-wrapped shelf, you're going to want more blue, otherwise it gets ignored. It's like, the apple thing of like if it has too much russet or it's not got enough red, people leave it in the basket. The best examples of blue don't exist in supermarkets. It's very difficult to make an industrial blue.
That's interesting, because I don't really like blue, at least not from the supermarkets.
I think it's a recipe that favours actually artisanal scale.
Right.
It's not something that really suits the buying styles that come from supermarket. It's the only exception to that would be, like one of the main ones would be Gorgonzola, which I think is...
Well, I was thinking that's one of the ones that I
exceptional,
you're okay with.
Still great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're made big scale. So.
What type of blue are you guys enjoying at the moment, or do you think would be nice for Christmas? Because I want to find one. I know I would like one. I just don't like the standard supermarket ones.
Yeah, I actually bought a blue today that definitely requires a little bit of communication, but in terms of just in the ways that it looks, it's called the Blue Brain, and it looks like a brain. The taste profile is actually quite mild. All the blue mold actually grows on the outside, so I always recommend it to people who are kind of just dipping their toes in the blue cheese world. The inside is entirely creamy. There's no mold in it at all. So I find that people are a little bit more inclined to just kind of scoop that part out. And it has like this essence of like the spicy blue mold that you get in something like a Roquefort or...
That sounds lovely.
Oh, it's delicious, yeah.
How about you, John? What would you say?
Well, I kind of agree. Like approachability is key, right?
Yeah.
There should, with all cheeses, be a balance, right?
I was just thinking
regardless of the age.
Is that what you're looking for in a good blue? Is it the balance that you want?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of like blue you're looking for, right? Like you were mentioning apple flavors or spiciness or how ripe it is. There's once again a lot of nuance within just blue cheese.
That's so true. How do people know how to select one? How would you go about it?
When you said you didn't like maybe some examples of industrial blue that you tried, that in itself is it. Like, I'm not surprised that people don't like blue if that's the only place that they've shopped it, because I don't find myself that you can cut blue up at the right age to get it good. Like I was saying about youth and bitterness, all blues go through that transition pretty much in my understanding. If you're selling it to be cut and not crumble away, you need to cut that cheese and wrap it when it's young. So you're forcing it to go out at a younger age when it's not quite right, when it's not at that sweet, breaking down, softer textured version.
So the older it is, the sweeter it is that right?
Yeah, the sweetness comes into most blues a bit later. Again, I think we're going to have an exception to the rule with this one that we're going to try now, but like Roquefort, Stilton, Fourme d'Ambert, Bleu d'Auvergne, things that we sell, or even Gorgonzolas, you need to wait for that acidity to be broken down by the molds in the inside of the cheese to round out the flavor.
And not just the flavor profile as well, like also the texture, as he was mentioning, the crumbliness versus the creaminess. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you get really different types.
Yeah, just like with any cheese, not just blue cheese, Age has a lot to do with, what you're tasting.
There's just such a huge world of cheese.
Yes, it's a science, enormous. It's an art form.
You were saying something about balance, and I think this is another thing that most people have an instinctual answer to, is if it's too salty or too acid, or one particular flavor is too dominant. For me, most people that we taste with, their instinct is to say, I'm not sure that's right, as in, it's almost like a clumsiness. It's the same with wine, right? If the tannins are too bold, or if there's no acid and it's just kind of flabbing out.
With any food, really, isn't it? That's always the tastiest thing, is when the balance is spot on, and then you get that complexity because you get several flavors at once, but they complement each other. Nothing is like screaming.
Yes.
I think that's a good way to do things. I want to know, with both of you, what's the most unusual cheese you've tried this year? What's been a real standout in your head?
I mean, one of our big unusual cheeses is Salaire, which we get from the Auvergne, and it's unusual because its flavor profile is just, every time I eat it, a wake up to something really complex, completely unique in its complexity. Almost like it's one of those products that isn't saying I want to be your friend first time you eat it,
right.
But it's...
I love a cheese like that.
But once you get it, it's solid, do you know what I mean? Like most of our mongers, after a series of months or years, would go, if I had to go out or kiss. I don't know the stupid game. Do you know what I mean? I do it all three with the seller. And they're like, okay, got it.
But
So
it took a minute for them to get there, you're saying?
Exactly. So
Okay.
it wasn't maybe on tasting one.
Right.
And so, yeah, we've just had a batch coming in from the end of September last year, and that's been delicious.
How is
Really,
it
really
made,
great.
that type of cheese?
So it's made really traditionally. The milk is collected into wooden barrels. The information and the cultures that will coagulate the cheese are in the barrel that the milk's being stored. When it gets back to the farm, the rennet is added, and then quite like Lancashire, curds are cut, allowed to pitch, and then picked out, and then sort of pressed, just like Lancashire is, like Kirkham's Lancashire, and so it's a very similar recipe. One day we'd love to bring those two producers together, and then eventually milled and put into a mould. So it's quite like British territorial, interestingly. It's one of the only recipes in France that kind of emulates something that we do quite commonly across the whole of the UK here.
That's interesting. What's the final texture like of the cheese?
So interestingly, the texture is kind of like it's a Lancashire, but it's pressed to within an inch of its life, so it goes back towards cheddar. It's a bit more elastic than Lancashire, is far more crumbly. Cheddar is generally a bit more cohesed and solid, so it's literally somewhere between. But the flavours, the choral flavours are quite astounding, but it's animal, hoofy. There's loads of structure and bitter in there like they would be in a good beer. Again, with the balance of all the spice and the flavour that's coming in. Super grassy, and then butter and milk coming through as well.
Sounds lovely. Coles, what about for you? What's the most unusual cheese you've had this year?
I actually brought it today.
You
The
brought it
Belper
today?
Cannoli. It's one of our best sellers here in the market because it actually doesn't need a fridge.
Well, it's wrapped in, like, is this a little muslin?
Yeah,
cloth
it's
type
wrapped
thing?
in cheesecloth. If you were to unwrap it, it almost looks like a truffle. So, really interesting cheese here.
It
It's
looks, yeah,
hard
it
as
looks
a
like
rock.
a little stone.
Yes, it's called the Belper Cannoli. Belp is where we produce it. Cannoli is rock in Swiss German. So it is hard as a rock. I often knock it on the surface that I'm standing next to when I'm speaking to customers.
I think people wouldn't know that was cheese. I think you
Exactly.
could just leave that somewhere and no one would eat it.
Yeah. It looks like a truffle, and it's not really a snacking cheese. It's not something that you would have on a charcuterie board or, on the grazing table that we've been talking about. It's actually used as a seasoning.
Oh.
So it's a ball of very, very fresh cow's milk cheese. It's like very young curds that we add garlic flakes to the dough, and then we essentially hand roll that, into these ball forms. And then we hand roll that in black pepper. So that's why it has this color that's looking like a truffle, because all that you see here is black pepper with some Himalayan salt as well. And
So interesting.
it's really cool, yeah.
How do you use it?
You want to taste it?
I do.
Yeah, if you hold your hand out for me. It is a seasoning cheese, and you grate it, and it also has this great kind of theatrical element, because we sell these beautiful hand slicers that look like truffle slicers as well. You can imagine Christmas dinner, you come out, you got your Brussels sprouts with the little Belper on top. It's very theatrical, it's very dramatic, it's delicious as well.
It's so tasty.
Yeah,
I've never had that before.
Exactly. Christmas aside, I like it on, pasta, salad, scrambled eggs is my favorite thing to eat it on.
It would be good on so many things.
Oh,
wouldn't it?
yeah.
It's one of those really versatile ingredients.
Yeah. So it's essentially a no moisture cheese. So you can see the garlic flakes in there, and then we
It really comes through as well.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the pepper on that is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have that on at Christmas time? What Christmassy foods
I like
could
it
you
on the
have
roasted veg, but then again, in the world of cheese,
You could do your
there's
veg
no
quite
rules.
simply, couldn't you? And then you could just put that on top and
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Brilliant flavour.
Exactly. But of course, meat as well. Any sort of side, really, because you're getting, a 4-in-1. You're getting the cheese, salt, pepper, garlic flakes.
Brilliant. I absolutely love it.
Interesting, right?
What do you guys think makes a cheese festive?
I think it's the communication, It's whatever is getting people talking, right? Like the Belper we just saw, it's a talking point. Whatever's festive to me is whatever you're going to be talking about and remembering months forward.
There's a packaging thing which that cheese has that's kind of awesome, because that just feels like you could almost hang it off a tree.
That's so true.
How it's wrapped in
It's
the
a present.
cheesecloth. Yeah.
It's really festive in its presentation. I don't know. I don't know if you want to hang too many. I wouldn't mind personally.
You guys
I'm
would be
in the
very
profession.
happy with that
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the street.
fine. I thought that was delicious, by the way. I thought that was really
Isn't
interesting.
it
There's
so good?
a
How
really
would you
nice
describe those
butteriness.
flavours?
Well, I mean, obviously it's really pepper dominant, but actually the garlic is subtle and not raw. So there's no bitter from it, which I guess you can get from people that put things within cheeses.
Right.
So the balance is great. And then obviously the cheese just almost calms and joins it all together. So there's that acidity.
It's a really, really soft,
Yeah.
originally very, very soft and fresh cheese, almost like ricotta, right? And what you mentioned about the garlic, I find really interesting. because it's back to kind of like you have to be talking about these things. You have to be like sharing this experience together, because so often I'll let somebody try the Belper and they'll be like, what am I tasting? You know, what am I tasting there? Obviously you're tasting pepper, but it takes a minute for the garlic to come through.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think your idea of it on eggs,
Delicious.
I want that tomorrow.
You should. You should, yeah.
That just feels like a breakfast winner.
That's the
Yeah.
selling point anytime you say that.
On your back.
So, how can people construct a really good Christmas cheese board? What elements do you need? What are you guys having on there this year?
Infrared goggles are essential. It's a scientific, very, very delicate process. You need total silence room.
Exactly.
A ritual.
It's terrifying.
Latex
and everyone
gloves,
needs to breathe
lab
very, very
coats.
deeply. No. So, I mean, I guess like we touched on it. You could be totally creative and say, I'm going to disappoint Dad intentionally and just bring 5 things I really enjoyed. I mean, here at Borough, there are maybe more than 18 businesses selling cheese. You've got
a lot.
plethora of choice to really break out of the traditional molds. Personally, I would say make sure you get a balance between what's going to disappoint your dad seriously. Like, obviously, I'm bound to that now that I've said it on this podcast. And I obviously will hold to that. But obviously, yeah, if there are other things that you think are new to discover, then introduce that to your family.
What's going to get people talking?
Yeah.
That's
And
the
then-
route I would go down.
Definitely.
I would want to have something surprising that I've not had before.
Definitely have a surprising element. We talked a lot about, having balance. You want balance on your cheese board. I always go for a hard, a soft, a blue, maybe a semi-hard. I love smoked cheese. Throw smoked cheese on there, and then when you're talking about accompaniments, when you're talking about what to pair these cheeses with, you can either go. The flavor profiles are adding up together. They're very similar, or they're complete opposites. Blue
Yeah,
cheese
you can
and
do
chocolate.
contrast
People
or
do
you
that.
can do complement, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard about this chocolate.
Coffee even.
Really? Does
with
it work?
blue cheese, yeah.
6 years ago, there was a guy from the Notes coffee stall that had a piece of our Munster, and he then came over and gave us an espresso. And
Delicious,
said, try
right.
that with your Munster, which is a very strong washed rind cheese. We had it aged for about 4.5 months. It was curiously older than ever normally 2 months. Pretty much maximum 2.5. It had cocoa bean flavors in it. So he'd literally done what I then thought, can I share that? Or was that the most pretentious pairing I could ever talk? Of course, so then I talked about it to everyone
Right.
and said, buy this, have an espresso, have a good day.
No, I think that's
and
really
sent
cool.
people.
It may be
was amazing,
pretentious, but
yeah.
it's fun,
Oh,
and
it's
it gets
so
people,
fun.
once
Yeah.
again, it gets people talking,
And it's just exciting for your palate and for your brain, isn't it? And sometimes I think with those pairings that sound really bizarre, there's like one flavor element of, say, the espresso that actually that does go with the cheese that you wouldn't really think about until you try it, and then you're like, wow, it works, and then it's just so fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
I've heard about parmesan and chocolate. What do
Yeah.
you guys think?
Super aged cheese with chocolate.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Could probably kind of work, even though they're both fatty. You've got like the sharpness from the parmesan
Yeah.
that I feel is gonna then
Crunchy,
work. Yeah.
salty.
Yeah.
Everybody likes salt and sweet,
That's
I mean,
true.
the
it
salt
works
and
so
sweet
well.
sounds really good. There's also obviously an aged parmesan because it's a cooked curd. It's super sweet, so there's a
Yeah.
sweet acid thing that might mix. If there's acidity in the chocolate that you're trying, that could be really good.
So we still have loads of cheeses in front of us, so I think we should dig in.
Yes.
Who wants to begin?
I've gone with the Belper, so why don't you take it away?
Should we? Yeah.
We can alternate. What do you
Should we
think?
do this?
John, tell me what this is.
So this is a Gruyère. So it's an AOC, an AOP cheese from Switzerland. It's aged by our maturers, Huguenots, who are in a really wonderful way coming over at the end of the month on Halloween to talk to our retail and wholesale customers about what they do. They basically select, I always call them the Pacific Coast, the West Coast, the French side, Jura Gruyère producers, and from them we select maybe a handful of people that we work with, and we're buying them to reserve for possibly the next 6 months to a year of sale. And we're currently with Montrichier. So we're with a Montrichier fruitière, Gruyère. They're new kids on the block. We've never worked with them before. And it's November milk, so it's really late in the year, and we generally don't normally go past October.
Okay.
But there was something in here the sense that it's the jura not too high. I don't think the snows were in, so there was still a bit of grass in the feed. You can tell that it's going white, and on that level, winter cheeses in that recipe, as you would say in a test, they always tend to go a bit more white in the winter, keratin being reduced because it's coming from hay, the feed to the animal, whereas in the summer it's grass-fed animals will then, they won't metabolize the keratin, and so the yellow will come through and feature more. We're really enjoying this batch.
That's lovely.
It is.
So
How old
good.
did you say it was?
So it's like, it was 22 months until a week ago, so it's 23 because it's November 2022.
November milk, yeah.
Yeah.
How much can you age a Gruyere?
Some people prefer a more aged Gruyere. Some people prefer a younger. I think what you're talking about with the milk as well, really important. My Gruyere is aged about 24 months. Big crystals in there, very crunchy.
I like crystals in cheese.
Yeah, so the older the cheese, the more of those you're going to get. You're going to have very similar profile of taste, right? But it's just going to be more pronounced the older the cheese is.
What else have we got?
I have 2 ages of the Schlossberger. So this is my more aged.
How is this cheese made and where's it from?
So Jumi Cheese, where I work, is an artisanal Swiss cheese company. All of our production is right outside of Bern in Boll, Switzerland. So we do carry Gruyere, but we kind of push our Schlossberger more. It's very similar in taste as you're
It's lovely.
tasting now. Yeah, nutty,
Really nutty.
fruity. Yeah, really nice. I like to eat it with my fig and apple mustard that we can try if you'd like.
yeah.
But yeah, it's all our own production.
so good.
Yeah, you
I
wouldn't
like
be
that
able
a
to
lot.
find the Schlossberger unless it's through Jumi Cheese. Yeah, it's aged about 20 months. I also have a younger Schlossberger, as we were talking about. It's like, different cheese out of the same cheese.
Yeah.
So you can see the crystallization in here, right? You can see the kind of darker color. It's made of the summer milk, as we were talking about with different colors for different times that you're milking the cows. This kind of has this like almost, not caramel color, but like a golden.
Is this a good option for a cheese bob?
Yeah,
For a Christmas cheese bob?
this cheese is like what I
Love
call
it.
my crowd pleaser, right? It's a hard, nutty cow's milk cheese. When you think, a lot of people, they think cheese, they're looking for something like this, right? But it's really special as well. It's made in like kind of a ginormous alpine wheel, like, 20 kilos, huge. But yeah, really special cheese, and you can do a lot with it. I told you I like to pair it with my fig and apple mustard.
Yeah, let's
so,
try
yeah,
that.
let's try it. So it's obviously
People love a condiment in the
Yeah,
UK. They
and
love
this-
a chutney.
Exactly. Not just in the UK, I feel like with anywhere. But once again, this is our own production, this fig and apple mustard. And when you pair it with this like really nice, nutty, salty cow's milk cheese, it's just flavor explosion.
Now that's very festive.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, and
That's very Christmassy.
I know I'm saying it's a fig and apple mustard. It's less of a mustard, more of a chutney, really sweet. But we add that mustard seed to kind of accentuate the fig texture. Flavor is very important, but also texture to me. You get the salt crystals that are happening, or the protein crystals that are happening in the Schlossberger, but then also this kind of crunchy aspect from the fig and the mustard seeds.
That's
and-
very pleasing. The thing is, I
Yeah.
like the cheese so much that I actually prefer it on its own.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, you always have the option. And if you like this cheese, we have a younger one as well if you prefer kind of like a creamier, not more mild.
I love the
but-
saltiness though, so I probably
Yeah,
would
yeah.
like this one.
You definitely have more crunch with
Yeah.
it, with the Schlossberger vom Grossvat 2 is what we just tried.
Let's try some more.
Should we do this?
Yes, let's do that. Tell us about it.
It is Mont d'Or. The French have the right. It's alluding to this battle with the Swiss. They both make it on both sides of the border
Okay.
to call their cheeses Mont d'Or when they're made on the Mont d'Or. So this is the family Sancerre-Richard that make our cheese. They are on the Mont d'Or, and they started their season just like everyone else.
And it's in this kind of like wooden tub, so I'm assuming maybe you can bake it, or
Yeah, so it's become
Ooh.
infamous, a bit like
Wow.
camembert in a breaded camembert in the
wow.
ramekin.
wow, that
With
is
being a cooking cheese. I did make the faux pas in front of 3 generations with this producer, though. There was the grandmother with an onion tart, and the son who was making, and then the nephew who hadn't yet taken over. And I said, how do you eat this? With a spoon, or do you cook it? And they went, no, we just cut it with a knife.
Oh, no.
Like every
That's
other
so
cheese. And I was just
good.
like, my family are from Paris. I'm sorry. Parisians live a different French
We wanna
culture
bake it. We
existence
wanna
to
spoon it.
everyone else.
Oh, it's so good. It's like creamy but also kind of sticky.
Yeah.
It's almost like yogurty in a way. Like a
yeah,
kind
with the
of-
texture or with the
Yeah,
flavor?
with the texture. Like not
a little yeasty, yeah?
yeah. Oh.
So I'm just gonna So you're tasting
Wow, that's delicious. Yeah,
you're tasting
curious.
the spruce, basically.
Yeah, that's
I'll-
what I was going to say. I was tasting some kind of like smoky flavor.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's so good. I could eat
essentially,
so much of that.
that cheese is matured on a shelf with a spruce belt. So it's belted on day one.
What does this mean for listeners who...
I mean, essentially, it's so soft, there's so much moisture in the cheese. If you didn't belt it on day one, it would end up a crepe Suzette. So it's literally a corset or a cummerbund
It's a
or
corset.
for men my age. But yeah, so it's basically holding it together. They used to traditionally use a pin, but now they just use an elastic band. And before it's put into the box, the elastic band's taken off, and then it's folded and put into a box that's slightly smaller in order to create that kind of hummocky feel, which is meant to emulate the landscape. But essentially it's an undercutting with a chisel with two upstanding edges that they run on the felled trees of the Jura. So there are still quite often families that travel up and cut down, they don't cut down the trees, but when the trees are being cut for forestation and for all the shelving, for all the cheese making production, there's an opportunity to then take off the outside bark and then cut this inner section of the bark and then basically cut them into long strips. They get boiled, so heat treated to clean them up, and then obviously they're used to then wrap the cheese before it gets into second day maturation.
And how would you describe the flavour of this cheese?
So yeah, I think you hit on some really big things. There's acidity in there still, so it's not the most mature that it can be, so still acidity, so there's still maybe 2 or 3 weeks that we could age that cheese up to, if that makes sense. The spruce influence is, again, a really delicate issue. Like we were saying with balance, if it's too clumsy and too dominant, then you're just going to taste that, right? It's like a wine with too much sort of oaky tannin or something. Like, okay, I've just missed on the grape completely. So yeah, there's definitely that kind of almost smoky,
Yeah,
but kind
that's
of
what I'm
woody flavour
tasting,
that's coming
but
through, like a kind of a
love
church pew or something like that. But
yeah.
I haven't been found licking church pews recently. I don't know why that came out.
It's the
but
smell.
I did say it.
I laugh
You get
because
what
I do.
I love your
Yeah.
descriptions.
So-
Can I have some more of it? It's so good.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool
Sure.
about talking cheese is the
Yeah.
descriptions. I
The
feel
the
like
descriptions can
you
be
can you
fantastic.
can throw out some, but then people will be saying, "Yeah, I hear you, church pew, 100%."
That's incredible.
So they're
Yeah.
washing the cheese,
Oh, God, the
right? So
texture
you've
is
got a
just
light
amazing.
wash drying
Unreal.
flavour. What you don't necessarily want is what can happen with that cheese if you over mature it with the white molds and you don't wash it. You'll get a more fungal and a more almost you're pushing the cheese towards maybe a camembert. The production that they go to is to make sure that they're washing it at least 5 times before it leaves at the age of about 4 weeks to us, and then we keep it for a further 2 weeks before we set it on.
It's a great
and-
size too. That would feed quite a few people.
I feel like this is a good one for Christmas time.
Yeah, for just a single meal when your mum and dad come and see you for the weekend, you might be like, I'm going to be left with a bit more, but that's all right. You just eat it through the week.
Lovely.
But for Christmas, that will get finished really quickly.
Oh
won't it?
yeah. Oh, I'd have that on my Christmas cheese board 100%.
Delicious.
You guys
yeah.
have done well so far. Let's try the weird brain one.
Yeah, is it time for the brain?
It's time for the brain.
It is a blue, so
I don't think I dislike them. I just dislike the ones I've tried.
So as we were saying, all of the blue mold is on the outside of this cheese, right? So if you're feeling intimidated by it, scrape out the middle. It's all white.
I'm not intimidated.
Okay.
I'm ready for the brain.
This is a really cool cheese. It was actually a happy accident. It was meant to be.
Oh, that's always the way with
yeah,
things.
especially with Yumi.
So many good things are just by
Exactly,
accident, aren't they?
exactly. The Belper was a happy accident as well, the seasoning cheese.
Oh, cool.
So the blue brain was actually meant to be a rosemary infused cream cheese.
What happened?
So working with blue mold in the creamery, you have to be really, really, really extra careful. Any cross-contamination could turn like any of your cheeses blue, which obviously you don't necessarily want, but that is what happened here. And there's also a little bit of white mold. This penicillium is kind of adding this kind of textured wrinkle to the rind, right?
Giving
which
it
is
the brainy
Which is why it's
vibe.
looking like a brain, yeah. So there's also quite a few ages of this cheese. This one is probably going to be about 6 weeks, right? It's still really fresh. It's still really creamy. The older it gets, it can get really funky. If that's too much for you, you can just nibble, So this is the young blue brain, 6 weeks, 8 weeks,
It's really
somewhere
good.
around there. We have brains that are aged about 6 months to a year.
I love how you actually call them brains.
Yeah, well, they look like brains. I mean, in the Swiss German, it's Blaushirni. which translates to blue brain, right? The older blue brains, the blue mold's getting a lot more textural. You're getting some really funky colors, really funky patterns of mold. It's like a very, very, very moldy cheese. It also deflates quite a bit. As we were talking about, the older cheeses get, the less moisture they have.
So does the texture on the inside change?
Yeah, it's more fudgy, you know? It's a fudgy, it's also brown. It's not white, it's not creamy. It's like a brown kind of toffee-esque. We're talking about the old blue brain here, not the young cheese. But I brought the young today.
I really like it. Is the young the least challenging of the brains?
That's, as I said, you know, why I like to kind of plop it on a cheese board, first and foremost because it's so interesting looking and it requires a bit of communication. People are going to have to talk about cheese whether they want to or not, because they're going to be like, what the heck is this like brain doing on the board?
I really like the contrast between the inside and the outside. That is really nice. And it feels weirdly refreshing.
The taste actually is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
As I said, it was meant to be a rosemary infused cream cheese. You're tasting those like really light, kind of buttery, whipped curds almost, right? And usually with blue cheese, blue mold only grows when it's oxidized, right? So usually when you see a blue cheese, you see the veining. That's because the rind is essentially has holes in it, and the blue mold is introduced into the meat of the cheese or the dough of the cheese. Blue mold, it only grows when it's oxidized. So when you're seeing that veining, that's because holes have been drilled into the cheese essentially. The blue mold has been introduced into the meat or the dough of the cheese. With the brain, the blue mold culture is added directly to those whipped curds. And we essentially kind of scoop those curds with like an ice cream scoop almost, right? And that's why it has this kind of funky dome shape. And all the blue mold starts growing on the outside.
Very cool.
Like an umbrella, right?
Yeah, a little protective case for it.
And now that we've cut it open, you can see the inside. It's very creamy. There's no mold in it at all.
Yeah, the inside is light and creamy, and that's the kind of refreshing part. And then you get the interesting bit on the outside.
Yeah, but if you were to take that home...
That.
And it starts oxidizing, obviously it's exposed to the oxygen now, that part would start going blue.
Ah. John, what were your thoughts on the brain?
I think it's really interesting. I think it's architectural.
Yeah.
Because blue molds, they loosen and break down the cheese. And as you're saying, it's, you know, the blue's in the milk, and once you pierce it, the air gets in, the aerobic molds then break down the cheese from the inside to the outside.
Yes.
You put salt in to just make sure that the blue mold doesn't go overkill and then make the cheese into a crepe Suzette. Like we were saying earlier, if you have a cheese that needs to look really blue, you need to have the salt at a higher percentage to maybe 3%, which is just sometimes for me a bit too unpalatable. But in this case, you've got the mold on the outside and it's breaking down the cheese really loose, but it's somehow like sort of Roman architecture, just holding its
right
form.
Underneath the blue mold is like kind of the softest part of the creamy cheese, where like the cream line is really nice. No, the brain is super cool. It's like, I like to describe it as a testament to cheese making as an art form, you know? It's very unique, it's very cool, it's very architectural.
Total experimentation as well.
Exactly.
So it's totally unique.
I want to know how you guys came to love cheese so much.
I started out years ago with Neal's Yard. I thought they were a really great company, left a lot of responsibility to people that had been relatively young within the business.
Did you always love cheese from a young age?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the interview and said I knew all about cheese. You know, I knew Stilton and Brie, and they went, you know, Stilton and Brie, don't worry, we'll work on that. You know, and I realised instantly, oh, maybe I should have been less arrogant, young, and ignorant. You know, obviously a combination
it got you
of
the
things
job,
that I'm
didn't
trying
it?
to work on ever since. Still got the job.
Yeah.
And then obviously they as a company working within the British side, like very different, contrasting, right? With Switzerland, we've got Swiss versions here. There, it's like it's a government federal concern, the scale and the control and the understanding of what's happening in the quotas, the number of cheeses being made, the AOP control on volume. It's extremely controlled. The price per litre, it's all very set down. Whereas in the UK, maybe when I started back in sort of in the 90s, it's the beginning of an artisanal wave that had only been about 15 or 20 years, and a lot of people divided and conquered in their own regions. Neal's Yard's attitude was, we need to meet the producers and need to be able to convey. So it was an element of forced have to be evangelical about the repeat information, as you said, communication of what this product is and what it is, in order for people to go, oh Christ, cheddar can taste like this, like in a sense maybe this good.
When I was younger, I used to think that I didn't like cheese, because my first experience of cheese was cheddar, and it was I just found it to be the most disgusting thing ever.
Too strong.
I couldn't understand why people would want to have that in a sandwich. To me, that was just terrible. It tasted like plasticky.
Okay, I wonder which cheddar you had.
Just a supermarket, just like the bog standard cheddar. Obviously, as I've grown up, I've tried different cheddar, and cheddar can be incredible. And I think sometimes people aren't aware that there's such a range.
There's such nuance, there's such nuance.
In a weird sense, it's like a discovery. It was a discovery for me then.
Yeah.
And so it was like I was having it with the people coming in through the door. So it's been a journey that I've then grown with. And
exactly. There's always room to grow with cheese.
Yeah, if you're in the industry for 20 years, then obviously you're going to know more, and it's so detailed from what the varieties are able to produce, but what it is that you're able to do within the industry and how different ways of selling it.
Massively.
And there are new ways obviously forming as we speak, which is really exciting to make it more approachable and to make it more accessible to people.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you always love cheese, Cole?
Always,
you?
Yes. Cheese has always been my favorite food since a very young age. I moved to the UK from New Orleans. It's a huge food community there.
What's the cheese scene like?
American cheese is having its cheesy renaissance.
Is
you know? Yeah, which I'm very happy to see. It's mostly women with their goats, which is amazing.
That's cool. I love
yeah,
that.
it is. It's great to watch. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of pasteurization laws in the States. We don't get as much amazing artisanal cheese as we do over here. So that's why when I moved from New Orleans, and I was looking for, any job in cheese, I tasted all these amazing different cheeses from England, Switzerland, France, Germany, and we just don't have cheese like that over in the States because of the pasteurization laws.
How was that for you when you first tried those kind of cheeses?
Have you ever seen that scene in Ratatouille when he eats the cheese with I think it's a strawberry, and there's like all these colors? That was me. That was very much me, and I learned everything I know about cheese from Jumi Cheese, the company I work for now. It's, as I mentioned before, they produce all of their products. So I was lucky enough to go out to the creamery in Switzerland. I was very much in the production as well. I hand rolled the bell peppers in the black pepper.
Oh, that's amazing.
I milked
to see
the
process.
cows.
Yeah.
But I think what John was saying, that being able to see the production of cheese is so important to understanding how much of an art form it is, how much science goes into it, why different cheeses taste certain ways because of the age, because of the environment, because of the breed of cow,
what the cows were eating.
What the cows were eating. That's why,
milk.
you get such different taste profiles from French cheese as opposed to English cheese. The cows are literally eating very different flora, and that comes out in the cheese, and I think that's so incredible.
You're making me want to work in cheese.
Oh, it's great. If you're considering it, I highly recommend. The community is amazing.
Like cheese, that would be a
How long
turnaround.
have you been?
22 years, I don't know, something like that.
I hope that to someday be me. I'm still very new to the industry, but it's so great. Not one person that walks into a cheese shop is in a bad mood,
Yeah, that's true. You can't really be.
Exactly.
I was going to say, actually, there is a very selfish thing maybe for each individual monger that stays and works within retail.
Yeah.
Is we're not exactly in that position of giving bad news to people. We're sharing a very fortunate moment in people's weeks, despite whatever they've maybe been through, or anyone, be both sides of the counter, is we're going to commemorate or we're going to do something great, small or big scale, and over cheese, that's a delight.
Over cheese, exactly.
I
So
love
I
that. That's so
enjoy
nice.
having that moment with them.
Yeah.
It's kind of a great exchange.
I love when
Such a
people
happy
come
job.
in.
Yeah.
They tell us an event that they need cheese for. You think about who's eating it, what diverse cheeses you need for it. I mean, it's great fun. Talking cheese is always great fun.
Finally, something that makes both your businesses quite unique is that you're both living wage accredited. Tell the listeners what that means and why that's important.
For us, it was. It's not something we necessarily hold to, so we intend to move people above it. But we realised in interview, if you start talking about ideas of growth, it didn't mean as much as if we actually were able to give this very clear message from the Living Wage Foundation, which, let's say, it's this amount, and it's calculated on this belief system. And I suppose in my time, it wasn't around, but we kind of imagined it because minimum wage wasn't anything, again, where I was being employed, that wasn't something that we were holding to. But as a communication to a younger generation of people looking for employment in London, which has never got any cheaper, it became a very quick way of communicating. We're trying to make it as absolutely fair as possible from the beginning. It doesn't need to be something that you earn your right to get to, after many years of service and all the rest of it. So, and the reality is the viability of the industry can only come of people that want to work in it because they can see themselves living by that wage. So as someone who's been in the industry for 22 years, it's a major concern of mine that any position where you get the sense that rent is not affordable or that people have to move to 40 miles away in order to then come in on a train to then serve cheese becomes ridiculous. And in a sense, so the viability of this industry is upheld really well in a clear message from the London Living Wage. So it wasn't a no-brainer, but it was definitely something which we realised actually made sense to us. And since then, in interviews with people, it's been something that's made much more sense. We've seen it as a very good communication tool to staff coming into the company. Yeah, it's great, actually.
I think John hit the nail on the head there. London has not gotten any cheaper, and it won't. Yeah, but I think that's exactly right. When you work in cheese, you want to be working up to a living wage. It's an amazing way to tell people who are interested in, starting a career in the cheese world. We've got you. This is baseline, guaranteed. Especially Jumi cheese, I had the amazing opportunity to go out to Switzerland to do all these amazing things, but with maintaining a standard minimum wage. It's amazing.
That's super important.
Yeah.
You want people to be able to come into the industry and be excited by it. And
exactly.
be able
No
to
setbacks.
Actually live, And a final cheese thought. What are your big predictions for cheese trends for next year? What do you think is going to be big?
You first this time, go.
Oh, okay. I'll throw something out there. Cheesy art,
Cheesy art.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about cheeseboards, making kind of a formation cheese, like art piece
like
out of
painting
cheese.
a picture with your cheese.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, why not?
Are there
For
any
making
styles?
a Santa or out of your brie, that kind of thing.
Abstract expressionism.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got your buffalo mozzarella, just kind of
Cocooning.
spread it. Yeah.
I love it.
Are there any cheeses that have been super popular or you think are going to kind of get popular?
Yeah, in my 22 years, the experience and the knowledge, the base knowledge of the customer is massive. I mean, Borough is exceptional in the sense that quite a lot of our customers come from old world countries. They come from Europe, Italy, France, Switzerland, Spain, and they know what they're looking at. And they're so there is that knowledge. If you go into the more less touristy, I guess, maybe areas outside the centre of London, like where we have a shop in the south, you've got obviously more residential. Still, the baseline knowledge is they're not just thinking, I know Roquefort, Epoisses and Comté.
Right.
They also know the farmhouse cheddars, they know the Tom de Savoies, they know the washed rinds like Munster. So we taste with people as they buy. We don't want them to go home to learn what it is. We want them to select by tasting. And in a sense, I feel like people's palates they always were, but their confidence in their palate is what's most improved. So they're happy to try anything in a sense. And I feel like
especially if it's cheese.
It's far more courageous now, and they're far more confident with what it is they will or will not say about whether they enjoyed it. Whereas maybe there was not totally coy, but there was something a little less confident and a bit more like, oh, well, of course you're the expert, and there was all that kind of reverse snobism referring to us as the French experts in cheese, for example, and we'd be like, no, we're all born outside the vat of milk as British citizens.
Exactly.
We're all working it out together. So in essence, really, anything brilliant or new, potentially like new style cheeses, could be the next trend. I was wondering, there's this great tradition in Switzerland and France of platters. People go to their cheesemonger and they get a platter, and then on a Sunday, instead of slaving over the stove, they bring out a platter, just like you would maybe in France have like fruits de mer, sort of oyster, seafood selection.
Platters for sure. I also think, especially in the colder seasons, melted cheese, fondue, raclette. Jumi has about 10 plus flavors of raclette, and people go crazy for it. I mean, any dish, in my opinion, any dish is better with like a layer of melted cheese on top. Like, don't mind if I do. Yeah, absolutely delicious.
I think that's a really good point. It used to be sometimes for some people that had been skiing that would have the kit to do it like once a year.
Right.
And I feel like
The novelty of
raclette
it.
and fondue sales have grown across the colder season. Because they've got the kit, actually, in a weird sense in Switzerland, if you go to a house and they don't have the fondue kit or the raclette kit, they're not Swiss.
Yeah.
Or they're moving house. You know? They're going to Canada. I don't know. So in a weird sense, yes, I do feel like people feel more confident again with having the apparatus to have that as a celebration a bit more often through the year, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Everyone loves melted cheese. You know, I know quite a few people, quite a few customers who don't think they like cheese, but they will eat it melted, you know? Or the cheese lovers out there that only eat cheese on their pizzas, you know, because it's melted.
Well, thank you so much, guys. You've both been such fantastic guests, and I have to say you've brought brilliant cheeses. I've really liked them all, and it's given me a lot of ideas for my cheese board. I would have all of these on my cheese board.
Yeah, it would be a great selection. We've got a soft, a hard, and a blue, yeah.
There we go. You've nailed it.
Absolutely.
No, thanks so much. So lovely to speak to you, and you're both so passionate about what you do, which I just love to see. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Giulia.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Borough Talks. Make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode, and we can't wait to see you next time. Cheers, guys. Borough Talks was hosted by me, Giulia Crouch, produced and edited by James Deacon, editing and sound design by Chris Attaway, and a special thanks to Nina and Bethan at Borough Market, the team at Bidow's Wine Bar for hosting us, and everyone who spoke to us and fed us.
Thank you so much, yeah?